Hey, Lucy. Hi, everybody. Sorry, my cat Lucy is in the background. She's so loud. Whenever I talk online, Lucy always thinks that I'm talking to her. Um, so usually I'm in a live stream on Thursdays, but tomorrow is Thursday, and tomorrow I'm going to go on vacation to Tofino, which is the surfing capital of Canada, basically. So I'm going to do some stand-up paddleboard surfing and camping for a few days. Yeah, and just take some time to kind of recharge and not be online all the time, I think. So that's why we're doing the live stream on Wednesday. So welcome to everybody. We have a few questions from last week. People left in the comments, and I would love to answer them. So the first question that I have is from Tammy, and I posted up an activity called the five senses. So it's just when you show, like, for example, an apple, and then students have to describe that apple with all of their senses. So like the appearance, it's like red, it's round, something like that. The taste, it's maybe crispy, a little bit sweet, something like that. Oh, hey, As Above Productions, thanks for coming back again this week. And yeah, so Tammy just asked whether that activity is good for like all students or if it's like kind of specifically an ESL thing. And I think she teaches kindergarten here in Canada. And yeah, definitely 100%. That activity is great for all young learners, I think, just to build their language skills. And there's other activities too, like another one I thought about was show and tell. I like to do that with my students, even adults, and they can just do a quick presentation talking about something special to them. And I love to like take kind of like the real life and relate it to the classroom. And yeah, so young learners in any country would love to talk about something special to them. Another one is picture prompt, so putting up a picture on the screen and kind of just eliciting some information from students and kind of like what they see, and it's just a nice kind of warm-up activity. All right, As Above Productions, where are you at in the world? Leave a comment and let me know. I'm in Vancouver, Canada. I used to live in South Korea for many, many years, but I'm here now. Oh, also in Vancouver. Perfect. Good. Welcome. Welcome. All right. So the second question that I had, it was a teacher in Sudan and Sudan, actually, sorry. And he was just wondering about like his situation. He gives instructions to students about how to do an activity or whatever. Then he says, "Do you understand?" And the students say, "Yes, yes, we got it." And then they actually just don't do what he said to do. And I understand the frustration. I mean, we've all been there as teachers. You think you've been very clear, and the students say, "Yeah, no problem, I understand." And then you say, "Okay, go get started doing whatever they're supposed to be doing." And nothing's really happening that you want to happen. And yeah, it's certainly frustrating. So my tip that I have for avoiding that, first of all, I'm going to give you the link. I have here is a blog article that I have about giving instructions. So the key thing I can tell you though is use ICQs, so instruction checking questions. If you take something like the CELTA course or any like Tefl course, for example, the tutor for sure would talk about ICQs. So an ICQ is after you give instructions, ask very simple questions. So for example, if I've talked about an activity and I've given all these instructions, I could say like how many how well, like how many students are in a group? And then students would say 3. And then you could say like how long do you have? For example, if they have to prepare a little something to like present to the class, how many minutes do you have? 10 minutes. And what are you writing about, or what are you talking about? Oh, I'm talking about my favorite TV show. So just ask all of these very simple questions. And then, yeah, that'll be super helpful for just making sure students actually understand. Yes, and I don't love the question, "Do you understand?" I think that's the worst question you can ask, actually, because people are embarrassed and nobody will actually say no. just from my experience, or it's quite rare that somebody will actually say no because they just have this feeling like, oh no, like everybody else in the class actually understands and I don't understand. So like I'm embarrassed to admit that. So instead use ICQs or instruction checking questions. Something similar to that you can use if you're teaching some content, like for example, a vocabulary set or a grammar point, are CCQs, which are concept checking questions. So these are just like very, very simple questions about what you've taught the students. So for example, if you're teaching about the simple past, you could say something like in the negative form, you could say, he didn't went to school. Is that okay? And students will say, no, he didn't go, something like that. Yeah, so those ICQs and CCQs. All right, and welcome to Tammy. Yes, Tammy says it's one of the most frustrating things as a teacher. Yes, it is very true, giving instructions and you expect things to go well and they don't. And honestly, it's easier to just like make sure the students actually understand before you start the activity through using ICQs than it is to like come back later and regroup. I mean, once everyone's started and they're up and moving and they're doing whatever they're doing, it's hard to actually get them to come back. Okay, Ashley, welcome, Ashley. So Ashley says, I hope I didn't miss this at the beginning, but I'm wondering which TEFL certificates you recommend. Yeah, so that's a great question. In the world of kind of ESL teaching, there are a million kind of TEFL certificates out there. There's even like very simple ones online that you can do in like a few hours, or there's like the month-long programs or like full-time month-long programs. CELTA is kind of the gold standard among those. So if you're gonna spend the money and time and effort to do something, just do the CELTA. It's kind of recognized around the world. It's generally, you can do it as like a month, like 4 weeks intensive, kind of like the 9 to 5, 9 to 6 kind of thing in class. There's like various places around the world. I did the CELTA in South Korea actually, and it was a part-time course offered through the British Council. And it was something over like 12 weeks and 3 times, yeah, like 3 times a week from something like 8 till 12 or 8 to 1 or something like that. And so I didn't live in Seoul at the time where it was being held. I lived about an hour away. So I took the high-speed train 3 times a week to Seoul. I took the subway. It was actually one of the most difficult times in my life. However, it was like such a good thing to have on my resume. And of course, like I learned a ton. And now even that thing like the ICQs and CCQs that I just mentioned, I learned that in the course. I learned how to plan lessons. There was a lot of like practice teaching and you would get feedback for that. And that was actually how I learned to be a far more student-centered teacher. So the things I did in class, I would always get the students talking instead of just me standing at the front talking. So yeah, that was so helpful for sure. Yeah, thanks for that question, Ashley. So definitely the CELTA. All right, and I had another question. Someone mentioned they've been applying for university jobs in Korea and then also around the world. And they are not in Korea at the time, and they're just not getting any responses back from any Korean universities. And they are very well qualified. I think they have like an MA TESOL and years of experience teaching adults or university students or whatever. So they're feeling a bit frustrated and they just wondered if they actually have to be in Korea in order to get a Korean university job. And I think the bad news I have to tell you is yes. During my time in Korea, I worked at universities for 10 years. And honestly, I think only one of my coworkers during those 10 years actually got hired from abroad. She was in China at the time and had a phone interview. And however, she was like the most well-qualified teacher out of all of us, actually. So I can see why they made that exception for her. But if you just have like an MA TESOL and a couple years of experience or even 5 or 10 years of experience, it's very, very difficult because there's a million of those people hanging around in Korea waiting to snap up that job and get that in-person interview. And I think that like schools are a bit nervous about hiring somebody. And then if you're not in Korea, I think they're nervous about you not showing up once the job actually starts, which is fair. I mean, I understand that concern. So yeah, that's the bad news for you. Sorry about that. Yeah. Okay, Ashley said, thanks for answering. That's such valuable information. Yeah, thanks, Ashley. All right, and then I have one more final question, unless there are any questions in the chat that people have. So someone asked, does the undergrad degree you have matter for teaching abroad? And their question was specifically Korea, but I think the answer is very similar to any country. So for example, if you have a BA in history or science or just whatever, does it matter? And kind of the simple answer that I have is not really. To get a visa in Korea or like almost any other country where you teach English around the world, it doesn't actually matter as long as you have a BA degree of some kind, and generally it's a 4-year degree that places are looking for. Yeah, so do whatever you want to do and don't worry too much about it. However, the one small thing, in Korea, if you work at a public school, and it might be similar in other places around the world, I'm not sure about this exactly, but in Korea, for public school jobs, if you have like a degree in TESOL or education or something like that, for example, you might get a little bit of a pay raise. And if the jobs are competitive, which like public school jobs in Korea are, you might have a little bump up over the competition who just has a BA and whatever, something not really that related. All right, so I think those are all the questions I got this week. And yeah, thanks for stopping by, everyone. So As Above Productions, Tammy, Ashley. Yeah, that's great. Any more questions, anything? Okay, As Above Productions says awesome. Perfect. Okay, 100%. Thank you. Thanks for that. And I will let you guys go. So I have to go get ready for my camping trip, which I have not packed. You can see all that stuff in the background there in my house. I have to get organized. And yeah, I'll be back next Thursday. So please leave a comment and let me know any questions you have. And of course, join me next time. And I will do live streams probably most weeks, Thursday at 10 a.m. Vancouver time. Oh, did someone else just come in? Okay, perfect. All right, I saw another person join us. Hello, anyway, we're just finishing up. Okay, sounds good. I will catch everyone later. Bye, everybody.